Okay, so how did you get into digital humanities originally?
Wow. I could say that this probably began before we started using the term digital humanities. I was a graduate student at Penn State in the 1990s, and that was a decade when we were going through a computer revolution of sorts because the World Wide Web was beginning to be something that people could access through a new technology called web browsers. And we were all experimenting with the new markup languages. I really only knew about HTML, but at the time that I was learning it, XML was under development, and I would come and learn that later on in my career as an English professor. But yeah, that's pretty much where I began. I was a grad student, and I was starting to make my first syllabi online and trying to do something that we called then paperless classes. If you could run your class without having your students have to print things out and having to hand out so many pieces of paper, that was an environmentally friendly way of working. So I would say that was probably my beginning, was through teaching at Penn State.
All right, so what technologies are used in both semesters of the class?
Well, in our class, we learn markup languages, and that's consistent in both of the courses. Markup is what you do with a highlighter or a pen when you're reading. You're scribbling in the margins. What we do is we write that using computer code, and it's up to you when you write XML how you want to organize that and structure it. In the classes, our students build projects based on the markup they make. And if that markup is systematic, we're able to use it to answer research questions and also to make markup that runs in your web browser and builds beautiful websites.
So how did you format the digital humanities class over time?
Can I ask what you mean by format?
Yeah, like how did you create the curriculum? Like,
Okay, right. So at first there was one coding course, and it used to run in fall semesters. There was a lot of technology that we teach in that class, and students, for many of them, they come in not being sure they're good at working with computers, but they come out with lots of mad skills. And it seemed like the best way to help students learn at the pace of the course was to have returning students come back and help their peers. And for that, I thought it would be a really good idea to have a course running in the fall and a slightly different course running in the spring. With that, we can have students come right back at the end of a semester, come back and review the technology and help mentor and get credit for helping to mentor their peers in the second semester. And they also get to work on projects. Students, I think, strangely enough, seem to really like to build the things that we build together in the coding classes. And this helps to keep a student pool involved and helps the returning students um, get more experience and get them ready to do things like take a project to a conference or use it maybe in graduate school applications or just simply come back to keep building things. So having the 2 semester sequence was useful for that, but it also helped me to slow down both of the courses, so I didn't have to try to pack every single technology in one semester. So I decided that the fall course would concentrate on building what we call digital editions and archives to build collections of materials. And the spring course would concentrate on coding that involves some quantitative analysis and data visualization. In reality, both courses do that. It's just that the spring course has more emphasis on visualizations, working with graphics and maps. There's a different set of assignments when we get into the second half of that course.
teaching the class?
The class moves quickly, and the challenge is to not let the students become overwhelmed. There's something I've had to learn over the years is how to make sure that students stay motivated to continue to do the homework every class period without being intimidated when it gets difficult. Learning to code is hard, but you learn best if you're challenged with it. And one of the things I've been trying to do is meet the students exactly where they get stuck, and try and make the classroom time be a place where we work through that stuff together. I have learned over the years something about how to evaluate the homeworks and exams, that students take exams very seriously, and I should try and balance the way the homework and the um, exams work together in the class, because students will learn, with the emphasis that the students will learn what they need by the time they take the test, but they should feel safe to not do well on a homework assignment. So getting over the student's sense that if they do badly on a homework assignment, they're going to fail the class, that's the thing I'm really trying to make sure students don't feel that way. I want them to feel safe to screw up on homework, so that they know, and I want them to feel like they know what they're doing when they write an exam.
Is that why you use the check system?
That's why I use the check system. At first, I started with a point system because I was afraid our students would blow off the homework and not do their best work. But I noticed with the point system that if somebody got a 7 out of 10, they would start being very anxious about it, when from my point of view that was good enough and it wasn't going to hurt their final grade. But students take scores to heart, especially our students, and that's why I decided, let's just call this check. It's satisfactory. You'll get a check plus if you're really amazing. I can make you revise and resubmit. Students still get anxious if they get check minuses, but it still doesn't have the weight of a number. And I think that's really important. So the things that get scored are going to be the tests now. And I keep trying to remind the students, don't worry, you can screw up on the homeworks, and we'll give you advice. And as long as you're learning, that's what we care about.
So how did you format the project, and how did it change over time?
Right. So in the first semester, I taught digital humanities, or the first time I taught this version of the coding course. We had students contributing to a project I worked on about the Pacific voyages. And that wasn't as successful as I wanted because students just didn't care about the topic. They would do things because I asked them to, but to make them work, like on the poster back here from fall 2013, to make them work on my project, it wasn't fun for them. And we moved soon after to having students propose their own project ideas and come up with their own research questions. And these are on topics I never would have thought of. We've had projects on Hamilton the musical. We've had projects on Banksy the artist, neither of which I would have come up with, but they're really wonderful projects. So this is one of the key motivating factors for students to learn to code, is that they're building something that they planned for themselves.
So how would you describe the typical class period?
So a typical class period involves me furiously getting ready. I will, in about an hour before, I will take a look to see what homework students have submitted and try to get a quick sense of where students got stuck. That isn't the only way I get ready for class, but it's something I like to do. Often students are submitting their homework in the minutes before class starts because homework is due right then. When we come in, I'll ask students what they got stuck on, and usually people will have a hand in the air and have a question to ask me. And we'll try and spend about at least part of class going over the work that they just did, with the goal of showing them anything they got stuck on, and anything that they're going to need going forward. We'll also spend time introducing new material. And in 50 minutes, sometimes that goes pretty quickly. Some days we simply can't go over homework for as long, and we have to introduce new things like how to work with new software. But it's always really action-packed, and it's an important class to be attending regularly, so because we always have a lot to do.